spit till I suffocate, very quick to agitate, concentrate till I rate, I'm irate, in a state, my confidence is a trait, success is my motherfucking fate.
Okay, I've been looking forward to talking about this show again for a while. I did a poll recently on what video you guys want to see next, and here we are. Wow. I watched the most recent episode of Attack on Titan a few days ago, and it was the most intense episode of an anime I've ever watched in my life. Never before did I feel so uncomfortable yet so exhilarated at the same time. Somehow this show just keeps topping itself and getting better and better with every season, with each new season adding a new layer of depth and intrigue to our understanding of the world and the development of the characters, but more fascinatingly, our point of view on what's going on. I would agree that Attack on Titan is so good that it falls under the unique category of shows that even non-anime watchers watch. Population currently consisting of Death Note and every anime that was on TV in the early 2000s that your mum would call Pokemon. The transitioning themes of the show happen so naturally that I have no idea how we went from to and that's the point I want to make. Few shows have been able to do anything like this being literally changing the genre of the show as the show goes on. There was always a huge mystery behind why the Titans were there and the whole world, but in the first few seasons the focus was primarily on the intense action and the Titan battles. But now we're calling into question who even the bad guy even is, or who to root for. Which leads me to the next point, the moral dilemma. After learning the truth of the Titans, in my head the villains were the Marleyan government, who were sending Titans to Paradise Island, basically the place that the first 3.5 seasons were based. Because they reminded me of the Nazis during World War II, as there's a clear parallel between how the Eldians were treated and how the Jews were treated. They were minorities that were persecuted and blamed for general societal issues and deemed as a less important race and literally demonized. Knowing how history in the real world unfolded, it's a challenge not to feel the realism of Mali as a society, which further adds to the discomfort when seeing the atrocities they commit, such as the death of Grisha Yeager's sister by the Malian police, who was brutally murdered by being fed to one of the chief's son's dogs. Despite this, the story helps us to sympathize with their side of the story, since they were being killed by Titans many years ago. And it's a functioning society with real people just living their lives. Not only that, but the Eldians ruled over the Marleyans with overwhelming strength and force. It was an ethnic cleansing which lasted over 1,700 years. Marley only managed to come out on top by exploiting the civil war amongst the Eldians, the Great Titan War. After the Marleyans' victory, the remaining Eldians had 2 of the Titans and fled to Paradise Island and built the walls to protect themselves. Those within Paradise Island are known to the Marleyans as devils, as they are the ancestors of Ymir, the original Eldian, which gained the power of the founding Titan after a deal with the devil. This is the Marleyan version of the story, and this history accommodates their agenda, so it's pretty much propaganda. Although from Grisha Yeager's point of view, the Eldian restorationists, the Eldians were treated like subhumans for the sins of their ancestors, when in reality, Ymir and the power of the Titans did a lot of great things for mankind, like developing a continent. There's also Kruger's version of history, which is completely different to both. The point here is that because the history is so foggy, it's hard to know what's true. It's as the quote goes, history is written by the winners. There's still many questions about the origins of the Titans, what their intentions were, and how they acted in that time. All of this in mind, the war between people continues. It's as the saying goes.
War never changes.
4 years later, Eren, literally the main character and the person we've been backing for the last 8 years since Attack on Titan started airing, and the rest of the cast, Levi, Mikasa, Armin, the whole squad, charge in and are responsible for the deaths of innocent people and even children in Mali. Now I'm at a stage where I don't know whose side I'm on, and I think this is where Attack on Titan breaks the typical cliche mold and changes the game. Through the plot and the way it's told, we somewhat feel alienated, because if the story was told only through the Marleyan perspective, we would probably agree with them and those living in Paradise Island are the devils. Ultimately, this demonstrates how biased we are when it comes to how objective we can be when we're only exposed to one side of the story. Thought-provoking messages such as these are definitely present in other shows, yet Attack on Titan makes it so unforgettably in your face that I bet people will be talking about this for years to come, and probably go down as one of the greatest stories told in anime, if not fiction. Now I believe there's a powerful reason for this, and that's our main character, Mr. The best way to describe how I feel about Eren as a character is by comparing him to another. That would be Gon Freaks from Hunter x Hunter. When I first watched Hunter x Hunter, I thought Gon would be just another stereotypical shonen main character. Spiky hair, check. Very strong for his age, check. Really annoying, I mean has an uncanny level of optimism, Check. Thing is, as the series narrative moves forward and Gon starts experiencing feelings like grief, we really start to notice how unhinged he really is and how much of a monster he can be. Like Gon, I thought Eren would be the same. His objective was, I want to kill all the Titans. Yay. How exciting. I understood his motivations, but that's really it. Nothing really we haven't seen before. Oh my god. Was I wrong? Just like Gon, the progression of the story events has proved that when taken to unforeseen heights, a face value generic character can be something unbelievable. I'm an anime only watcher, so as of this video, we don't know what Eren saw from touching Historia's hand, but I can't wait to go batshit crazy once again. And honestly, that's what watching this show feels like. It's a rush of adrenaline, not only in the early seasons, but especially now in the last season when everything has built up to this moment. What Attack on Titan has achieved from its lore and world building is astounding. It genuinely feels so satisfying to watch as more and more information is slowly fed to the viewer. It all started with the main cast trying to futilely explore beyond the walls and getting nowhere, to finding what was in Eren's basement, to all the mysteries of why Annie, Berthold and Reiner were even there in the first place. Now we know that the trio's objective was to reclaim the founding titan from the people behind the walls in order to shift all the power to one side in order to end the long war between the Marlians and the Eldian. The way the story is told always leaves us wanting more, and I've never been disappointed with what we've been given. It also manages to make additional viewing of the show even better, as things that made no sense before or we ignored are now very clear. An example of this being how Berthold and Reiner were so sure that Eren would understand why they're taking him, and that it would all make sense if he just came with them. Like Eren, we could only see the story from the Eldian's perspective because of all the murders the Colossal and Armor Titans had caused. Now we know, we can see why Eren could end up being the bad guy in the grand scheme of things. I think the character which represents the audience the best is Reiner. Reiner spent so long behind the walls, he gained genuine bonds and friendships with the Survey Corps. He spent so long, in fact, that he started to forget why he was even there. In Season 4, we can see how much of a broken and conflicted man he is. The actions he had to take behind the walls had caused him to have major emotional and psychological problems. So torn by being a spy and a friend, he doesn't know what side he's on. He's bringing him to the brink of suicide. I could make an entire video on Reiner alone, how damaged he is as a consequence of war and espionage. Attack on Titan has changed the game in the way it manages to go from a great show to a masterclass in storytelling as the narrative unfolds. It provides a genuine feeling of tension while being watched, as we know anyone can die. Because, in truth, there is no real hero of the story. Only in the final season have we become consciously aware of that bias, our perspective being that of the scouts. We learn more about the world as they do, thus there's no dramatic irony involved. It's as if a mirror is being held up in front of our faces just to say, whose side are you on now? Which might even force some of us to have a difficult conversation with ourselves, to question what we would do in this situation. As fictional as the story is, history is evidence that this has happened before, and this continues to happen. What if you were in a terrorist militia group with outsiders coming in and bombing your loved ones? How would you respond if the attackers said they just wanted to save you? When you apply it to a real world context, the implications get a lot more terrifying, and the message of Attack on Titan becomes a lot more real. That's why this story is such a masterpiece in the way that it can provide exciting, thrilling entertainment, but at the same time have an extremely profound and deep message, or even a warning to humanity about the dangers of war and clinging to ideology. That's how Attack on Titan changed the game completely.
My motherfucking fate. It's open season and I'm out for the kill. Adrenaline pumping through my veins, now I'm feeling the thrill. Call me Itachi, you won't see me. Tsukuyomi.